The king who bore the sword, some called him. The Black Dragon to others. I prefer Daemon the Pretender, the traitor, and traitors have always paid with their lives. Daemon wasn't always a traitor, but he was a bastard. In late 170 AC, Princess Daemon Targaryen gave birth to Daemon in King's Landing. His mother named him after her grandfather, Prince Daemon Targaryen, the rogue prince. In later years, some considered this name a warning of what he became. Daemon's father was King Aegon, the Unworthy, though at the time of birth, Aegon did not come forward as the father. Daemon was raised in the Red Keep and was taught arms by Sir Quentyn Ball, the Master-at-Arms at the Red Keep. When he was 12 years old, Daemon participated in a squire's tourney, which he won. King Aegon personally knighted Daemon and publicly bestowed the Targaryen Valyrian steel sword Blackfyre on him, finally acknowledging him as his son. There were some who felt that the sword symbolized the monarchy, as it had been the sword of King Aegon the Conqueror, and had been passed on from king to king ever since. Aegon's public gift of the sword would eventually start the first talk that Daemon should be king. Following the acquisition of the sword, Daemon took the name Blackfyre for himself. Daemon was tall and powerful, with broad shoulders, muscular arms, and a flat stomach. Targaryen on both sides, Daemon had all the hallmarks of his house. He had strong Targaryen features, with deep purple eyes and silver gold hair which he wore long, flowing down to his shoulders in a silvery gold mane. He always went clean-shaven, with neither beard nor moustache. Almost inhumanly beautiful, Daemon looked every inch the warrior, and many thought that he strongly resembled portraits of Aegon the Conqueror. Daemon Blackfyre loved his half-sister Daenerys, and their passion was known by the whole realm. Yet their father Aegon was not willing to let their love dictate political matters. Instead, Aegon negotiated matches for Daemon to secure ties with Tyrosh, and negotiated a betrothal for Daemon to Rohan of Tyrosh. King Aegon then promised Daemon that he could have more than one wife, like Aegon the Conqueror. In 184 AC, the reign of the unworthy monarch finally ended. Aegon's last decree before his death was bitter poison that would lay the seeds to generations of war, bloodshed, death, and woe to the realm. Aegon legitimized all his bastard children, including Daemon Blackfyre, and these children became known as the Great Bastards. Daemon's true-born half-brother, Daeron Targaryen, ascended the throne following Aegon's death. He refused to allow Daemon more than one wife, paid the dowry his late father had promised to the Archon of Tyrosh, and saw Daemon wed to Rohan in early 184 AC, granting him a tract of land near the Blackwater on his wedding day, with the right to raise a castle. Daemon and Rohan had a fertile marriage. Their twin sons, Aegon and Aemon, were born later that same year. They were followed by 5 more sons and at least 2 daughters. Daemon's love, Daenerys, was then betrothed to the Prince of Dorne, Prince Maron Martell, was brokered by her brother Daeron, as part of the treaty bringing Dorne into the realm of the Iron Throne. Despite Daemon and Daenerys being in love, their brother the king, Daeron the Good, was more concerned with matters of state than matters of love. There had been many years of fighting with Dorne, and failure to bring them into the 7 kingdoms, while not being able to keep them from harassing the 7 kingdoms. So he realized that where violence failed, perhaps marriage could bring an end to hostilities, and so he used his sister to make an alliance with the Prince of Dorne. It's a political marriage, pure and simple, a convenient marriage to guarantee a union between Dorne and the 7 kingdoms. And also, he prefers to give his sister to the Prince of Dorne over a bastard brother with whom he'd already had a few clashes, and whom too many people were looking for as a legitimate claimant to the throne or rightful king. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, and helped lead to Daemon becoming the first Blackfyre Pretender. At the wedding of Princess Daenerys and Prince Maron Martell, there was a wedding tourney. Daemon participated in the wedding tourney and was defeated in the final tilt by Prince Baelor Targaryen, Daeron's eldest son. And with the wedding over, Dorne finally came under Targaryen rule. The Martells had won a few concessions for Dorne during the negotiations, and the Lords of Dorne held more rights and privileges that the other greater houses in the Seven Kingdoms did not. In addition, Daeron brought many Dornishmen to his court, who held important offices, causing others to believe that the Dornishmen held too much influence over the king. Over time, men began to long back to the times when the Dornish had been the enemies to battle against. In addition, Daeron was not at all a warrior. While his heir, Prince Baelor, was as much a warrior as could be desired, he had the appearance of a Martell. With the memory of the Dornish as enemies still in their minds, many of the Dornish marches came to mistrust King Daeron and Prince Baelor. These same people looked at Daemon Blackfyre and saw in him a warrior, grown tall and powerful, with the hallmarks of old Valyria, who was described as having had an almost inhumane beauty, being half a god among mortal men. Those lords and knights dissatisfied with Daeron's reign began to seek Daemon out, but it took them many years to convince Daemon to declare his claim. Maester Yandel considers it likely that it had been Aegor Rivers, Daemon's younger half-brother, who had managed to convince Daemon in the end. According to King Maekar Targaryen, it had been both Aegor Rivers and Sir Quentyn Ball, the Master-at-Arms at the Red Keep, who had played the largest role in convincing Daemon. Aegor pressed him to proclaim his claim for the Iron Throne, and after Daemon agreed to a betrothal between his eldest daughter, Calla, and Aegor, his efforts increased. Many lords and knights joined in. Besides the influences of his counselors, Daemon had come to resent having the status of bastard and what it represented. The First Blackfyre Rebellion finally broke out in 196 AC. Daemon's decision to claim the throne had been made rashly, and word soon reached Daeron's court that Daemon meant to declare within a month. It has been suggested by Archmaester Meryon that Brynden Rivers was involved in the news reaching Daeron. The Kingsguard was sent to arrest Daemon, but, with the aid of the Master-at-Arms of the Red Keep, Daemon managed to escape imprisonment. Daemon's allies used this attempted arrest as a cause for war, claiming that Daeron had acted without reason. Daemon took the Targaryen sigil with the colors reversed, a black dragon on red, giving him the nickname the Black Dragon, with Daeron being referred to as the Red Dragon. Daemon's armor was ornate and costly, all black and red plate, and his war helm was distinctive, with bat-like steel dragon wings on the sides. It is said that half the realm declared for Daemon, though this may be an exaggeration, as none of the great houses did, and not all houses pledged their full support. Notably, houses Hightower, Butterwell, Oakhart, and Tarbeck gave support to both Daemon and Daeron, while others were willing to betray Daemon for Daeron. Most of Daemon Blackfyre's core supporters were concentrated in the Reach and the Stormlands, primarily among the Border Lords with strong anti-Martell sentiment who resented the new peace with Dorne. Daemon did manage to openly control enough territory that at some point he began minting his own coinage. At some point, the thief Quickfinger attempted to steal dragon eggs for Daemon, but was caught. Over the course of the war, battles were fought between the rebels and loyalists, in, amongst other places, the Vale, the Westerlands, the Riverlands, and the Reach. Quentyn Ball attacked the Westerlands, killing Lord Lefford at the gates of Lannisport, and then defeating Lord Daemon Lannister in turn. At the crossing of the Mander, Quentyn slew all of Lady Penrose's sons, except for the youngest, whom he spared as a favour to the lady. Lord Leo Tyrell participated in the First Blackfyre Rebellion as well, fighting on behalf of House Targaryen. He won notable victories in the Reach against Daemon Blackfyre's supporters. The final conflict of the First Blackfyre Rebellion was the Battle of the Redgrass Field in late 196 AC, as Daemon Blackfyre's rebel army approached King's Landing itself. On the eve of the Redgrass Field, Fireball was slain in a chance encounter, picked off by a random archer when he stopped for a drink of water. Meanwhile, Lord Bracken had gone across the narrow sea to hire sellswords to reinforce the Blackfyres, but storms delayed the return of him and the Myrish crossbowmen he had hired. The two armies collided on an unnamed field. Lord Costane was on the left of Daemon's host, while Lord Shawnee was on the right side with Aegor Rivers, who was known as Bittersteel. Lord Leo Tyrell, one of Daeron's most powerful supporters, did not arrive in time for the decisive battle. Daemon was unstoppable that day, cutting Lord Donalarin's van to pieces, slaying Weil Waynwood and the Knight of Nine Stars before coming upon Sir Gawain Corbray of the Kingsguard. A famous fight took place between the two, with Valyrian steel swords, with Daemon wielding Blackfyre and Gawain using Lady Forlorn, before Daemon managed to severely injure his opponent, leaving him blind and bleeding. Daemon paused then, to make sure no more injury came to Sir Gawain, ordering Retusk to carry Gawain back to the maesters in the rear. According to Sir Eustace Osgrey, who fought on Daemon's side, Daemon fought like the warrior himself. But by that time, Bloodraven and his company, the Raven's Teeth, crested the Weeping Ridge, which overlooked the battlefield, and allowed them to rain arrows down among Daemon and his commanders. Daemon's heir Aegon was killed first, knowing that Daemon would never leave his son on the field, and then pierced Daemon with 7 shafts, killing him. The younger twin, Aemon, picked up Blackfyre when his father fell, and Bloodraven slew him too. With Daemon dead, the rebels began to rout. Aegor Rivers claimed Blackfyre and rallied the rebels by leading a charge against the Raven's Teeth, but was eventually forced to flee. He took Daemon's widow and remaining children with him to the free cities, eventually ending up in Tyrosh. In exile, Daemon's descendants continued their struggle for the Iron Throne, resulting in 4 more rebellions. These attempts led to the arrest of Daemon's 3rd son, and the deaths of his 4th and 5th sons, as well as the death of a grandson, also named Daemon. Daemon's last male descendant, Meleys, was slain during the War of the Ninepenny Kings by Sir Barristan Selmy, ending the Blackfyre threat after 64 years. 16 years after Daemon's death, some still made pilgrimages to the Redgrass Field to plant flowers on the spot where he died. Some called Daemon the rightful king, the king who bore the sword, while others, like Stannis Baratheon, say Daemon Blackfyre was a rebel and usurper, and traitors have always paid with their lives. Whatever they say, the Blackfyre threat is over, or so we think.